and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be focusing on creepy stories from Asia. And these stories are coming from Reddit again, because I love Reddit, and who doesn't? Well, first of all, I'm sure you already know by now I am Asian, so we have a lot of scary stories from the East Coast. So I would like to share some from different countries. And I also want to address how thankful I am from my latest video about positive comments from other people. I'm so thankful for that. So yay! But I will address that more on the end so as to not bore you on the intro. So our first story comes from Ghost Stories, and the username is called Gonzo Jeff, and they posted this 3 years ago. And this story is from Japan, by the way. So the title is called The Ghostly Boy of Okinawa. Several people requested to hear my stories from Japan, so here's the first one, which is a doozy. I actually don't know what doozy means. My wife and I lived for nearly 5 years on the island of Okinawa, which anyone who's ever lived there will tell you has a well-deserved reputation for being very haunted. Some of the atrocities that took place there during World War II were absolutely horrifying. Combine that with a native culture that has a strong belief in ancestor worship, and it's apparently an ideal recipe for the presence of lots and lots of restless spirits. Every year, Okinawa celebrates the festival of Obon, with customs and traditions that are quite different from those on mainland Japan. The purpose of Obon is to commemorate one's ancestors, and the belief is that spirits return to this world for 3 days to visit family. The timing of those 3 days is based on the lunar calendar, so the exact dates vary from year to year, but they usually fall in early August. The first day is the welcoming day. Families visit the tombs where their ancestors' remains are kept, and they escort the spirits home where a family altar is set up, with offerings of their favorite foods and drink. On the second day, family members pray to their ancestors at the family altar, often traveling from one home to another to pay respects to all their ancestors. The final day of Obon is when the family gathers to celebrate with a lavish dinner, after which they escort the ancestors back to the spirit realm with the help of teams of Asa dancers that parade through every town and village. It's an amazing festival and cultural tradition, but it's also considered to be the time in Okinawa every year when spirits of the dead are the most active. As luck would have it, our family moved into our new house on Okinawa in early August during Obon. It was me, my wife, our dog Sparky, and my wife's 2 sons who were ages 8 and 12 at that time. Let's call the younger one Brian, and his older brother Jack. The house had 3 bedrooms arranged side to side on a long hallway. Jack's room was at one end of the hallway. My wife and I had the room at the other end, and Brian's room was the one in the middle, between the other 2. On our second night in the new house, we told the kids it was time for them both to go to bed. Jack went off to brush his teeth with no fuss, took Sparky into his room with him, closed the door, and went to sleep. Brian refused though. We figured that he simply wasn't tired yet on account of jet lag we were all experiencing after the recent flight from the USA to Japan. My wife and I told Brian he had to go to bed even if he didn't feel tired, so he could get his body clock reset to local time. He kept resisting though, becoming less and less silly and more agitated. Finally, he broke down and started crying. And at that point, we knew something else was wrong, because this was not a normal behavior for him. We hugged Brian and got him to calm down, and we tried to get him to share what was bothering him. It took a little while for him to open up, but then he told us an amazing story. Brian said that during the previous night, our first night in the house, he couldn't sleep on account of jet lag. In the middle of the night, he heard a noise, and he looked up to see the door to his room slowly opening. A little boy roughly his age walked into the room, illuminated by the light filtering through the window blinds from the street lamp outside. The boy walked over to the corner, and he started looking at Brian's toys that were on top of his suitcase. After a moment, the little boy looked up at Brian, and then he simply disappeared. Brian told us through his tears that he was afraid to sleep in his room because the ghost boy might be back. My wife and I both thought it was possible that Brian had dreamed all of this. He wasn't the sort of kid who just made up stories of this sort. Whatever the case, he was legitimately terrified to sleep in his room. So we told Brian he could come sleep with us in our room for the night. And he did. The door to our room was shut all night long, and we all slept relatively soundly. The next morning, I was up early to get ready for work. Jack was awake too, and he joined me in the kitchen while I was making breakfast. My wife and Brian were both still sleeping because Jack had gone to bed before Brian got upset the night before. He had no knowledge about Brian's story or the fact that he slept with us. Out of the blue, Jack said to me, "I'm really worried about Brian." I asked him why, and he said, "I think maybe he's upset about moving here." I woke up in the middle of the night and went to the bathroom, and I could hear Brian in his room just sobbing. He sounded so sad. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. Brian spent the entire night with us in our room, sound asleep. So, who did Jack hear crying in Brian's bedroom? The next year, my wife saw the little ghost boy too, but that's another story. Wow, they got some ghost boy in their house. I say, cleanse that. Shh. We're not saying bad words in this channel, but I'm saying cleanse the house. I think a lot of people should consider cleansing the house or the apartment they're going to live in first, even if it's new. There are some cultures traditionally that they would have some priest or somebody to bless their house or cleanse the place that they're gonna live in, as to, get rid of the ghost or whatever that's been there for a while. Because, like, bruh, I'm not living with a ghost. If I were to move to an apartment somewhere here in Toronto, or maybe Ottawa, I don't know, maybe I'm moving there, I'm probably gonna have someone to bless the place, or I'll do it myself. Unless, this is the rule, unless this ghost person is gonna pay rent with me. Okay, fine. Maybe we can share space, as long as they pay rent. All I'm saying is, rent economy right now, the real estate economy right now is like sad. So yeah. One of the commenters said, "Great story. Also, side note, I love how the Japanese tradition of Obon is closely mimicked to the Mexican traditions for Dia de los Muertos. Just another example of how closely related we are. Despite our outward differences, it also just cements my beliefs in the afterlife and spirit world." That's true. Actually, even my country, we do have something similar to the Day of the Dead in Mexico. We don't really celebrate Halloween like October 31st. We celebrate more of November 1st, which is All Souls Day. And then the second day is All Saints Day. But similar idea, we go to grave sites, and it's like a big celebration. There's a lot of festivities surrounds it, and honestly, graveyards are so pretty around that time because we light candles. We light a bunch of candles, and like we celebrate. We have some gathering, family gathering. It's so nice. It's so homey. I'm not gonna lie. It's so wholesome. But coming to Canada, we don't have that here. I mean, for the most part. But in Canada, there is trick or treating, which is, I guess it's okay. But I'm older now, so I can't have candies. I have to buy them myself. That kind of sucks. Anyways, back to the story. I do feel a little bit sad for the little boy though, because probably that little boy, that boy passed away in that house or in that general area, maybe looking for their family or lonely. Really sad, but still creepy. I wouldn't want that. Perhaps what the OP and their family could have done, maybe have some sort of priest or something similar like that in Japan to cleanse the house, so it helps the little boy to just bye, see ya, go to heaven or wherever they go. I'm not super religious, but I still do think there is a heaven of sort. I do believe in reincarnations and stuff like that. But good story. I like this story a lot. Okay, so next story is from Ghost Stories again. Oh, the username is kind of funny. The username is called The Nigerian Prince 2. And this was posted 3 years ago. The title is called Demon in My Hotel Room. I have a few stories from past experiences, but I will post this story and another one. Oh, this story is from Thailand, by the way. I have a few stories from past experiences, but I will post this story. And another one another time. A few years ago, I went to Thailand with my girlfriend at the time. Well, it was more like a resort rather than a hotel. I won't mention the name of the resort, but each room was on a different level on the side of a mountain, next to a beach. I also won't mention it because I can't for the life of me remember what it's called either. Now, I swear this room that we stayed in was haunted. I've had previous experiences with the paranormal as a kid and throughout my teenage years, so I am a believer that there is some form of afterlife. When we first entered the room, it was bitterly cold. Yes, I know Thailand is a hot climate, so it could have been the aircon. But you can tell the difference between when an aircon has been on, but this room felt like it was below 0 degrees Celsius. I put it off as the aircon, but thinking back on the experiences, surely the aircon wasn't first class technology to produce such coolness. The next thing, I am trying to sleep. I am an insomniac, have been since I was 6. And in my left ear, there is this very, very quiet electric guitar playing, like a death metal riff, over and over, and it would not stop. The guitar riff kept playing until I eventually fell asleep. But me being the metalhead that I am, it didn't bother me much, but I put it off me listening to my music too loud, too long on the plane ride there. The guitar riff played in my ear every night I was at the hotel. Every night I stayed at the hotel, I dreamt of violence and gore, horrible things. I remember dreaming of murdering people in the worst way possible, and it's way too gory to mention here. One night I fell asleep and I was having another horrid dream, and at the end of the dream, there was this white sheet that rose. Typical ghost look-alike from old movies where the ghost is under a white bed sheet. It looked like that. I am a brave guy and I started challenging the ghost and I started fighting it with my bare hands. I remember I grabbed it by its throat and started choking it while yelling, "I'm gonna kill you!" over and over. I think my sanity started dropping by like the third night staying at the hotel. Unbeknown to me, I was saying it in real life too. It woke my GF up and she started fearing for her life, thinking I was going to kill her. She eventually woke me up and I explained the dreams I was having and the experiences in the room. She told me she had no experience. That night, after telling her the experience, I woke up at around 3:30 a.m., feeling extremely sick. I had to rush to the toilet and I projectile vomited for about 3 hours. I told my girlfriend to take me to the hospital, but she told me to rest and see how I am in the morning. I woke up in the morning feeling like nothing had happened. Now we moved to another hotel for a few more days, and everything is stopped. No more death metal guitar, no more violent dreams, no more feeling sick, and the hotel room was at room temperature. Could this be some sort of entity that lived in the hotel that was haunting? Or all pure coincidence? I have a lot more paranormal stories to tell, but I just wanted to share this one. And this surely is no coincidence. One of the commenters said, if this resort was located near the ocean, chances are they are very haunted. You gotta remember the 300,000 plus people that lost their lives on Boxing Day almost 20 years ago to a T. It was one of the most prolific, horrific natural disasters that Thailand has seen. So many people lost their lives that day, so many children, and I'm almost positive it ended in bloody gore. So much unfinished business, so much confusion. There's definitely some type of energy left over in these places. My curiosity is turning. Can you remember anything else about the resort or about the people and the way they died? Was it very traumatic? That's wild, that's true. Anything near the ocean, I mean, statistically, we haven't really explored much of the ocean and there's more unalived bodies there. That's scary to think. Another commenter said, many hotels are plagued with suicides. Feelings of anger and hate are symptoms of depression, or they could have ended their life and then they regretted doing so after. So now they are trapped and angry in that room and take it out on all who sleeps there. Ooh, that's actually, that's true. Like I mentioned earlier about the ghost boy. Unaliving situations in certain places harbor a lot of heavy emotions. There's a reason why they did what they did. Obviously, it's because they're not happy. The emotions and however they felt was trapped in the room or in a specific place. And I just chalk it up to the thought of that they're just trapped there. Like they can't really go anywhere because that's their final resting place. I mean, they're not resting. They're not rested. That's why they haunt so many people or haunt places because of the restlessness. There's really nothing to go on if you're just trapped in a particular place. That's really scary to think, honestly. Imagine for like centuries because there's a lot of like accounts, stories about war and this and that, and seeing entities all around, seeing ghosts all around from the 1600s. It's wild to think that we're living in the same plane where ghosts of the past is here. I don't ever want to see anything like that or experience something like that, but you can never really know for sure about hotels. Like maybe the room you're staying at, something happened there. I don't really want to think about that. I do stay in a lot of like Airbnbs and hotels because of the work I do, so this is gonna be on my brain for a bit, and yeah, no, I'm gonna try not to think about that. But anyways, good story. I really liked it. So this is the last one before a bonus story. This comes from Ghost Stories again, and the username is called Belkoth, and this was posted 2 years ago. Hi everyone! I'm sharing a personal experience which I had many years back while I was still a kid. The place is in China. While I was there for a tour, during a visit to a place which is famous for its tea, Longjing tea. The tour guide brought us to its famous well, which strangely until today I've not even been able to Google and heard of. The well, unlike a usual well, it's only barely surrounded by any wall or stone barricade to stop people from falling in. The guide showed us the well and its strange phenomena. A ripple created on the water would not cease to stop. It'll just keep going. Shortly after playing around the well, we moved on to an area not far from the well. But that's where the strangest thing happened. I saw another tour group around the well, and one of the guides is standing in the well, as though it's a short puddle, which is an ankle deep, jumping up and down while beckoning me over to join him. Just as I was stepping into the well, someone grabbed hold of my arm and said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, I'd like to join them, and turned over towards the well with no one in sight. I did not let my parents know about this, but did tell my mother until many years later. Recently, I saw a ghost documentary about a farm in the United States which is haunted. In the story, there's a well hidden below its floor with the same property, ripple which never stops. I'd like to ask people here to share the story and bring forward those who are interested in the phenomena, so we'll get to know the strange ties between unending ripples and ghosts. One of the commenters said, "Do you think the ghost was trying to lure you into drowning? Did your actions feel totally your own, or did you feel a little hypnotized?" And the OP said, "I was feeling a little hypnotized, but I'm still clear in thinking that something is wrong. How can well be that shallow, and rejected him once or twice until I came close to have a better look." That's wild. Ooh, my gosh, there is a lot of stories from different cultures of entities or ghosts luring people into the water to drown them. One of the most notable stories I remember, I'm not sure where this story comes from. Maybe once I figure it out, I will put it up here somewhere. But it's a story about, like, if you see a horse near the water, you're inclined to walk over to that horse. It's more like a pony, I think. And once you're there, I think once you start petting it, you're like stuck with that horse. And then you get dragged to the water. Oh, that's wild. That's crazy. And another notable scary story is that relates to water is La Llorona. Oh my god. I watched the movies years ago. I do not like the face. I don't like scary faces. Oh my gosh. And similar idea is to lure children to drown in the river because she can't find her 3 kids that she herself drowned. What a wild story. But perhaps Opie was being hypnotized because he said that he was still clear in his head. But things like this, when you're being lured, It's like something's urging you slowly to go there. I don't know what their purpose is, maybe to eat their soul or something like that, but ooh, that's freaky. But you know what? I'll probably explore more about luring to the water, ghost stories, scary stories. If you have any, send them my way. Oh my gosh. But I'm never really fond of deep waters. I mean, I love the ocean, but if I'm alone, like if I'm not with anybody and I'm gonna try to swim, like you'll never catch me doing that because I'm a chicken for the most part. And I'll have someone with me because that'd be scary. Because you never know. But, anyways, the title is called My Cousin Sharon. When I was young, around the age of 5, I had a cousin named Sharon. She was born with serious heart issues that required her to undergo multiple surgeries. Unfortunately, on what would have been her final surgery, she passed away at the age of 2. My mother was asleep in our apartment and a few miles away from the hospital when she woke up to a peculiar sight. She saw Sharon running around our living room, waving and saying goodbye. Fearing the worst, my mom immediately called the hospital and received the devastating news. Aww. However, this was just the beginning of strange occurrences. Not long after Sharon's passing, my grandparents returned home to find coat hangers rattling and the bathroom sink running with scorching hot water. They couldn't find any logical explanation for the rattling coat hangers and were certain that they had turned off the water before leaving. It was then that my grandmother remembered one of Sharon's favorite activities, playing with water. Shortly after this incident, my grandmother awoke one night to witness a luminous orb hovering in her bedroom. Subsequently, she sought guidance from a priest who conveyed that the presence of the orb was indicative of an angelic being. Additionally, last year, my grandmother found herself alone at home engaged in household chores. As she passed by her kitchen china cabinet, which housed a musical figurine depicting an angel, she was startled to hear the figurine spontaneously play a tune. It was at that moment when she recollected the significance of the day. It marked the anniversary of Sharon's passing. Furthermore, both my aunt and uncle have shared their own encounters with Sharon's apparition. Moreover, my mother and grandmother have experienced remarkably vivid dreams involving her. Despite the fact that she departed from this world almost 2 decades ago, we still possess a profound conviction that she is somehow present among us. My family considers us incredibly fortunate to have our very own guardian angel, none other than my cousin Sharon. Aw, this is more so wholesome than scary. I did not expect that to be wholesome. I think I was more prepared to be scared, but that's really sweet. And that's kind of sad because the Sharon was only 2, but she passed away. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna cry. But anyways, that's the bonus story, and I love this one. That was so wholesome, honestly. I hope you enjoy all the stories that I've talked today. And I just want to address how thankful I am for the responses I got from my last video, my recent video. I'm gonna link it here. And I'm just happy how a lot of people actually watched that. And I'm like, oh, people think I'm interesting. And my sub count significantly went up. So I'm very, very thankful for that. I enjoy what I'm doing. So if you do have any stories, do share them my way. If you have any images or videos with it, I will be scared to look at them, but I will add them because it is what it is. And I hope I can find a better space to film more of my horror contents. I did mention that I wanted to play horror games, but I don't know, I'm too chicken, but I will still try. Reading alone actually scares me because I'm very visual. So a lot of it freaks me out already. But then again, thank you for tuning in. Do add me on socials. I have a new Instagram. I deleted my old one. I am on TikTok, however, I don't really use that much. And I have a Poshmark boutique, so I have brand new cosmetics there. Do check me out. It's on the link below. And until then, I'll see you next time.